Hello everyone, hello Dr. Man. Group topic is the impact of the ESG performances on competitive financial construct. This is my group 12. This is my group member's name and student's ID. And I want to continue to introduce the 5 parts. One is the introduction, and 2 is the lesson rules, and 3 is the data and methodology and empirical analysis, and this 5 is the conclusion. Firstly, I want to introduce this background. The many fields, especially in the many countries, face service is the financing the contracts that is they to get funding at the closed. In this context, the ESG performance, which standing for environmental and social and the governments, has been as the protection solutions and stronger ESG performance can boost and invest confidence and helping fair actions the finance more easily. However, the impact of ESG is not seen for every company. It often depends on the firm's ownership structuring. Understanding how ESG after the competitive financing is important for actioning and effectiveness of the green finance policies. It's in the economic like China. This topic is the problem statement. Although the ESG has become increasingly important in financial discussion in China, there is still limited evidence about its impact. Many believe that stronger ESG programs in increase and reduce the risks, but whether the traveling easy financial construct has not begun fully invested. Also, ESG does not affect our firms equally. It may vary depending on our shape and industry and local financial constants. The most prominent studies are based on developed countries via China. The institutional and banking system remained undeveloped extremely. This study therefore invested how and another would condition ESG performances after to the influence in China.
We list 3 research questions here. First one is, does better ESG performance significantly elevate financing constraint for listed companies in China? Second one is, through what machine does ESG performance influence corporate financing constraints? Third one is, do the effect of ESG on financing constraints differ across industry or firm characteristics? These are 3 research objectives. One is to elevate whether ESG performance significantly elevate financing constraints among Chinese listed firms. Second one is to explore the machines through which ESG performance influences financing constraints. Third one is to examine whether the effect of ESG on financing constraints differ across industry or firm characteristics. Let me continue with literature review. This slide gives a brief overview of how ESG performance affects corporate finance. ESG, which stands for environmental, social, and governance, has become an important factor for firms seeking capital. Strong ESG has helped reduce financial constraints by improving transparency, building trust and regulation, and spreading positive signal to investors. However, research findings are still mixed, especially in emerging markets like China, where the evidence is limited and sometimes unclearly. This chapter we will review the key theories and studies to better understand the link between ESG and financial constraints. To understand how ESG can help reduce financial problems, we can look at 3 main theories. The first is information asymmetry theory, which says that ESG disclosures make companies more transparent, so investors feel more confident and are willing to lend money at lower cost. Then there's single theory, which means good ESG performance sends a strong message that the company has good governance and care about long-term success. This builds trust and attracts investors. Lastly, take shoulder theory says that ESG helps companies build their better relationship with employees, customers, and suppliers. This stronger relationship improve reputation and make it easier to get financing. Together, this theory help explain why ESG matters in financing. There is also growing real-world evidence to support this idea. For example, Chen and others found that companies with strong ESG score face fewer financial problems because they gain more trust and are seen at less risk. also showed that socially responsible companies have lower financing costs. In China, Liu Zhou and Xu found that ESG help companies get easier access to funds, especially in areas with stronger rules. And Zheng pointed out that ESG builds supplies trust and improve trade credit, which helps reduce financial stress. So this study supports the idea that ESG really can help companies when it comes to getting money. This slide summarizes the key findings from the literature, the exciting research gaps, and the contribution of this study. Past studies suggest that strong ESG performance helps in reduce financial constraints by improving transparency, trust, and reputation, especially in Chinese context, where high ESG scores are linked with easier access to capital. There is also evidence of indirect effects through trade credit and stakeholder engagement. However, important gaps remain. Many studies lack in practical testing of mediation machines, really explore heterogeneity across industries or firm characteristics, and often ignore issues like endogeneity or fixed effects. Furthermore, ESG is frequently mentioned as a single dimension in Chinese study. To address these gaps, this research built a multi-dimensional ESG model, apply fixed effect and instrument-level methods, and contribution new micro-level evidence from China. This effort helped to strengthen the theoretical and impractical link between ESG and financial constraints in emerging markets.
Now let's come into part 3, data and methodology. Here I will introduce 4 parts. Now let's come into research framework. This slide outlines our research framework and steps. First, we start with data collection and cleaning. Then we construct variables and do descriptive statistical analysis. After that, we perform a multicollinearity check, that is VIF test, to ensure the model's robustness, followed by Hussman test to choose the right regression model. Once the regression is done, we carry out a mediation effect test in 3 steps. Then we perform a robustness check and verify the results with alternative measures. Finally, we conduct group tests and summarize the conclusions. This is the whole process of our research. With this distills a variety of representative ways of setting econometric models and estimation strategies from the existing literature. On this basis, we will combine variable characteristics and data structures to establish a target panel regression model and a framework for identifying mediating effect. Song and Deng, 2023, verify that the mitigating effect of ESG on financing constraints is heterogeneous. This model provides a direct template for constructing the benchmark regression model in our research, especially with high transferability in variable setting and fixed effect treatment. These 2 people use 2-stage regression method to examine the mediating role of financial constraints between ESG differences and enterprise risks. They use 2-stage to capture the indirect influence mechanism of ESG. So in order to study the impact of ESG performance on financial constraints may not be transmitted through single paths, but rather exert an indirect effect through multiple mechanisms of external credit supply for enterprises. Our paper introduced mediation effect analysis framework. We explore the mediating role of trade credit financing between ESG and financing constraints. We refer the classic Barron and Kinney 3-step regression to identify a mediating effect. So to systematically study whether the ESG performance of enterprises can alleviate their financial constraints and further explore the underlying mechanism based on previous theoretical analysis, we construct a panel data measurement model at enterprise level. Here, ESG is independent variable, and TC is trade credit financing. From beta 3 to beta 10 are all control variables. beta 1 here is the most important coefficient we have to attention. If it's significantly negative, it indicates that the better the ESG performance of enterprise, the weaker its financing constraints, suggesting ESG may play a positive role in reducing financial friction. The next is a mediation effect model. The first step is direct effect of ESG on financial constraints. If beta 1 is significant, it indicates that ESG has a total effect on financial constraints. The second step is the impact of ESG on mediating variables. If beta 2 is significant, it indicates its ESG will generate an indirect pass-through mediating variables. Here, TC equals accounts payable minus accounts receivable divide total assets. The last step is introduce the co-regression of mediating variable to test whether there is partial mediation or complete mediation. If beta 3 is the same direction as beta 1 in first step and remains significant, it is a partial mediation effect. But if beta 3 becomes insignificant, it is a complete mediation effect. Okay, here are our research hypotheses. The hypothesis 1, according to the theory of information asymmetry, enterprises convey non-financial information through ESG performance, which helps enhance transparency and alleviate the cognitive gap with banks or investors. Hypothesis 2, the higher the ESG performance of an enterprise is, the higher its trade credit financial level will be. Because in the context of China, non-financial enterprises with outstanding ESG performance are more likely to obtain support from non-traditional financial firms, include trade credit financing. So the last hypothesis is trade credit financing plays a mediating role between ESG performance of enterprises and financial constraints. According to the three-step mechanism analysis path, enterprises improve their reputation and stabilize business relationships through ESG construction, thereby obtaining more accounts payable credit and further alleviating the capital pressure caused by financial difficulties in the former financial system.
I'm Xu Yiren. I play presentation data and methodology. In this slide, we began with the bench regression analysis. Use the KZ index to test the relationship between ESG performance and finance constraints. Our hypothesis is that better ESG performance reduces financing constraints. We apply a fixed factor model to control for time invariant factors that vary across the companies. We also conduct the mediation effect analysis to test if trade credit mediate the relationship between ESG performance and finance constraints. Our hypothesis is that better ESG performance indirectly alleviate finance constraints by improving trade credit. Finally, we perform heterogeneity analysis to improve whether the impact of ESG on finance constraints that differ by industry or ownership structure. We use the subground regression to examine these effects. We ensure the validity of our models through a diagnosis for multiple linear endogeneity and heteroscedasticity. In this slide, we use the data from two main sources: the SISMA database, the Chinese stock market accounting research, and the WAND database. The SISMA database provides finance and economic indicators for Chinese listed companies, including company size, profitability, leverage, cash flow, and finance constraints. The WAND database provides the finance and the microeconomic data, including market value, stock price volatility, investor behavior, and stock and sector-specific data on finance conditions. In this slide, we present the dependent variable finance constraints, which measures the level of the finance constraints fixed by a company. It calculates in the combine of the finance indicators such as operating cash flow, leverage, and cash holding. The higher KZ index indicators, the more severe finance constraints. The core independent variable in our analysis is the ESG score searched from the Huazhong ESG rating database. This score evaluates the company's performance across the environmental, social, and governance dimensions. The hypothesis that countries with the better ESG performance may experience the improved reputation, lower risk premiums, and better access to financing. This study introduced the trade credit finance as the key variable in our analysis. The trade credit measures the company's ability to obtain investment from suppliers through credit purchase or deferred payments. The formula is calculated as the difference between account payment and not payment divided by total assets. The higher TC value indicates the stronger role in the supply chain, helping ease short-term finance pressure through credit. This reflects the company's access to non-traditional financing channels. Additionally, we control for extra factors that may affect the finance constraints, such as company size, age, leverage, profitability, cash flow, and other variables, ensuring the accuracy and reliability of our analysis. This variable help us to understand the relationship between the ESG performance and the finance constraints. This table simply lists all the variables used in our report. This slide outlines the data processing method used, ensuring the accuracy of our analysis. First, for a missing variable, we use the linear interpolation to predict and fill gaps in variables like ESG score and cash flow. This helps maintain the continuity of time series data and improve the regression accuracy. Second, we address the extreme outlines using Winstonization applied to variables such as the ESG score and leverage. This process limits extra value to a reasonable range to prevent them from scaling over results, improving the robustness of the model. Finally, our data clean objective is to ensure the clean data is reliable for multiple regression and mitigation effects analysis, enhance the accuracy and the interpretability of our result. Thank you.
Evening, Doctor. My name is Guo Xuwen. In Chapter 4, we aim to explore whether better ESG performance can effectively alleviate financing pressures faced by firms, and through what mechanisms. Let me begin with data description. Our dataset covers over 25,000 firm-year observations. The average value of the KZ index, which we use to measure financing constraints, is 1.235, with high variability. ESG scores range widely, suggesting large differences in ESG development across firms. The control variables such as firm size, age, leverage, and profitability also exhibit considerable variation. These descriptive statistics confirm sufficient heterogeneity for meaningful regression analysis. Our baseline regression uses a fixed effect model justified by the Hausman test. The regression results show that ESG performance has a significant negative effect on financing constraints. This means that firms with higher ESG scores face lower financial pressure. Additionally, firm size and cash flow is constraints, while leverage and firm age increase them. The model exhibits a high explanatory power with adjusted R-squared up to 0.8541, validating the robustness of our findings, and why we chose fixed effect will be discussed later. We then explored whether trade credit or TC mediates the relationship between ESG and financing constraints. In the first step, ESG significantly reduces financing constraints. In the second step, ESG negatively affects trade credit, meaning better ESG firms less on trade credit. In the third step, when both ESG and TC are included, ESG still has a significant effect but with reduced magnitude. This confirms a partial mediation. Let's walk through the results in more detail. The first row, ESG significantly reduces KZ with a coefficient of negative 0.0915. The second row, ESG also significantly reduces TC, the mediating variable. The third row, both ESG and TC affect KZ. ESG's coefficient drops to negative 0.0861. This partial drop confirms a mediating effect. These steps show that ESG not only directly reduces constraints, but also indirectly helps by lowering trade credit dependence, which in turn eases financing pressure. We conducted Sobel-Goodman tests to statistically verify the mediating effect. The results show that the indirect effect of trade credit is significant, with a p-value of 0.0049. The mediating effect accounts for nearly 6% of the total effect, confirming that TC plays a meaningful but partial role. To further confirm robustness, we ran a bootstrap test with 500 samples. The confidence interval for the indirect effect excludes 0, and the p-value is 0.000. This strongly supports the reliability of the mediating pathway from ESG to financing constraints via trade credit. And then we can see the graph. This scatter plot visualizes the relationship between ESG and financing constraints using the bin scatter method. As we can see, higher ESG scores are associated with lower KZ values. The fitted line slopes downward, confirming a consistent negative relationship. This provides visual support for our regression findings. And then we tested the nonlinear model. We tested for a potential nonlinear relationship by adding a squared ESG term. The coefficient of the quadratic term is statistically insignificant. The U-test also shows both slopes are negative, so we conclude that there is no evidence of a U-shaped or inverted U-shaped relationship. The relationship is linear and negative.
Evening, Doctor. My name is Liu Shuanglin. I will continue the following content, including the diagnostic test, robustness test, conclusion, and policy recommendations. Using the bridge pendant test, we find that the errors in our model don't have the same spread. To address this, we use the clustered standard errors at the form level, ensuring the validity of our inference. The average test shows that our panel data has first-order autocorrelation. To address this issue, we use the form-level scattered standard errors, which improves the relatability of our estimates. We also looked at the difference by dividing the sample into manufacturing and non-manufacturing sectors. ESG clearly helped reduce financing constraints in both groups, but it works better in non-manufacturing. Interestingly, farming sites had different effects in the two sectors. This shows that industry characteristics can change the financing environment. Next, we divided the forms by pollution intensity. ESG performance reduced financing constraints across both high and low pollution industries, but the effect was stronger in non-high pollution sectors.
Bump size was only significant in non-polluting firms. We did the Houseman test to decide between Foster and Rodham effects. The test clearly supports using the Foster effects model. This makes sure that hidden form-specific characteristics are properly controlled. All VIF values are much lower than 10, so there is no zero spontaneity. ESG and financing countries have a strong negative relationship, which supports our main idea. ESG has a clear negative link with financing countries, meaning better ESG makes it easier for firms to get money. Firm age and leverage has strong positive links with countries, so older and more leveraged firms find it harder to get funds. To make sure the results are strong, we changed the ESG scores to a new variable called the ESG median, based on quantiles. The results stayed the same. ESG median still has a clear negative effect on financing countries. This result is true in different models, which makes our findings more variable. To deal with possible endangerment, we did a 2 SLS regression and utilized ESG as the instrument. The first step shows that the instrument is strong. In the second step, ESG still clearly reduces financing countries. Even when using this method, this makes our results more likely to show a cause and effect relationship. We ran some tests to check if our instrument is good and reliable. The Claiborne Allen and F statistics shows that the instrument is strong enough. The Heisen-Jet task shows that the model is correct. These results mean our method gives us reliable cause and effect conclusions. Now I will talk about the conclusion and policy implications. In summary, ESG performance clearly lower financing countries. Trade credit is part of the reason for this effect. ESG works better in non-manufacturing and non-polluting sectors. This means ESG can help companies get better credit and feel less financial pressure, especially in cleaner and service industries. We have two policy implications for companies: make ESG management and reports better, improve how they handle environment and governance inside the company. Try to use this trade credit and build long-term financing partners. For the government, give help like tax credit and green loans. Make rules for ESG reports are the same for everyone. Help ESG-friendly small and medium companies get more money. These ideas can help keep the capital market steady and support green economic growth. Thank you for your listening. We now welcome any questions.